AJ, could you just tell us why the need for this trade at this time and a little bit about Tim Hill?
Yeah, I think the deal was obviously to get a piece that we felt like could help contribute to our bullpen here, this season for the next 60 games and in the future. I think with Tim, it's a guy that has overcome a lot in his life. Kind of late bloomer getting to the big leagues, but a guy that over the last few years, both at the minor league level and at the major league level, has been one of the most effective relievers, and especially relievers versus left-hand pitching. So I think with the Castillo injury, with the muscle strain, I think from our standpoint, just adding another quality reliever and somebody, especially from the left side, that could complement, the guys that we currently have. I think from our standpoint, it's somebody we've had our eyes on and ultimately lined up for us.
AJ, how does the performance of some of your other outfielders this camp impact your willingness to part with Franchy, knowing what he's capable of?
Yeah, I think, it's difficult dealing Franchy, for a lot of reasons. I think somebody that's, signed with the Padre organization, somebody developed through the Padre organization, just an A-plus person, first-class individual, and having those conversations never easy, in this chair. I do think, again, like we've had some guys that are performing well, and you don't want to read too much into the last couple of weeks' performance, but the continued development of Edward Olivares, obviously Tommy Pham coming back from the Corona positive. I think overall for us, Josh Naylor, who's versatile and can play some different spots, Taylor Trammell, and some other young outfield bats. I'm not saying it was easy to move Franchy, but we have some other options, and some guys playing well for us right now in these scrimmages, and I think we factored everything in, and mainly about getting another quality reliever, and Franchy was a guy that they continue to push on.
All right, next up we'll go to Marty Caswell.
Hi, AJ. Do you think you make this trade without the injury to Castillo, as you referenced? And we know what a tantalizing prospect Franchy Cordero was, but was his inability to stay healthy also a factor, as well as your outfield depth?
Yeah, obviously I think the Castillo injury, it definitely factored into just like probably for us inquiring on Tim. He's a guy we've had our eyes on for a while, though. He's been one of the more effective guys in the game. Like I mentioned earlier, his pitch types, the different look, the different angle, the way the fastball plays, we think it's going to continue to play. So we like the uniqueness of Tim as a pitcher. I think in terms of the Castillo injury, I think we factor everything. What was the second part, Marty? The second question?
No, just about Castillo injury, and also if
Franchy.
about his, because he has some great potential, but it's the potential word, and he got injured a lot. Was that also a factor, his inability to stay healthy?
Yeah, I think it's obviously like hard to predict injuries, and I think the injuries Franchy's had, they should not be recurring type things, but. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing with the injury factor of Franchy's just lost the last couple of years of development. And, obviously nobody can predict the Corona deal here this year, but
right.
Basically looking at 3 years of, he just hasn't gotten the at-bats that he's going to need. I think he's, again, and I think in our situation, with some of the outfielders that we mentioned earlier with Pham and Grisham, looking like they're going to be, mainstays in the outfield, or ain't going to get at least substantial at-bats here this year. I think for Franchy it was probably more of a platoon role, and I guess he'll get more opportunity going to another organization. And again, probably a better situation for him, but still never easy overall.
Hey, do we characterize this as a win now move, given that you gave up 2 guys who might have started the year in the minor leagues for a reliever who's 30 and can help you win this season?
No, I think one of the attractive things, again, I think pitching comes at all different levels, and especially when you look at some of these relievers that have kind of been the drop down guys, or the guys that throw from different slots or present some uniqueness. Sometimes it takes those guys, some years to figure things out. I think the thing for us, with Tim is, it's from a service time standpoint, he's a 1+ player. It's 5 years of control. So, we looked at them as a piece for now and moving forward for the future.
Next up, we'll go to Bob Scanlon.
Hey, AJ, I know it's not always a factor, but sometimes when you see what a guy has gone through personally, like what he has to get there, is that a little bit of a testament to maybe the inner toughness that a player like that might have?
Yeah, it was definitely part of the conversation. Pete Young and the scouting group, they, obviously, talk about makeup, and Matt Strom is a close friend with Tim, and but you obviously look at the backgrounds and where guys have come from and how they've done it, and he's got a very intriguing story, and what that means specifically for him. Everybody's different from an individual standpoint, but he's obviously overcome a lot. Kind of small school, $1,000 senior sign, late bloomer. 24-year-old getting introduced into pro ball, 28 or 29 in the major leagues, and then obviously overcoming the colon cancer and the death of his dad at a young age due to cancer. So he's had a lot thrown his way, and we're banking that speaks highly about his resiliency and ability to overcome some challenges and adversity, and that was factored in when we made the acquisition and factored in terms of our evaluation.
All right, we'll go back to Marty Caswell.
AJ, again, I mean, the season hasn't even started yet, but in the unique 60-game season, like how many games or weeks do you give yourself, again, to find out whether you're buyers or sellers? I mean, I know the deadline is different this year, but is it a week? Is it a couple of weeks? What kind of sense before you know what kind of team you are?
Yeah, I think it's, honestly, I think it's, you see some of these projections and the standings seem to, like in these projections, they're very close. You kind of look back on past history to see like where teams would be after 60 days. I think it's going to be more of a feel thing when we get into the season, just how we're playing, how well we're playing, what's going on in the division, what's going on in the wild card chase. I think we're going into it, looking at that, I think everybody's going to go into it feeling like they have a chance in a 60-game season. But honestly, like I think we're going to have to get into the year to get a real sense of, hey, at what point do we know that, or we feel like we're genuine contenders, or is it going to be a real tightly, bunched up mix all year, or teams going to start to separate themselves? Honestly, I think we're going to get into the season and kind of see how we get off, and how we start the season, and who else, how the other teams in the division play. But I think we're open-minded and just try to figure out, as we get into the year where it goes. I don't think there's any preset notion, hey, at the 3-week mark, that we're going to know where we're at. It's kind of just get into it and see what happens. So.